Welcome back to the FPL video and podcast. This will be the transfer tips for Game Week 6, and we have a few weeks left until the international break, but a lot of people will be deploying the wildcard in the next couple of days if they haven't done so already, and this podcast will still apply to you, but it also will help those who aren't playing the wildcard and want to use free transfers, possibly take some hits, and it doesn't matter if you have 4 free transfers saved, possibly even 5, if you got even less than that. All of this will be covered in this podcast, and the best players to buy, hold, sell, and skip will be discussed in today's video. Smash the like button and subscribe for new if you enjoy my content. Let's try to get this to over 200 likes on YouTube, and let's keep on pushing towards 30,000. We hit 27k last week and then 28,000 the other day, so thank you very much for your support. Check all the links in the description below for my Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, the Discord server, FPL League, Draft Town, as well as Spotify, even patreon.com/DylanRCM, or clicking the join button on YouTube for early access to my content. Without further ado, let's jump straight into it. I've highlighted Mbeumo for some time now, but this is the first occasion where he features in the Transfer Tips podcast this season, and with Brentford's fixture swing from Game Week 6 onwards, it makes complete sense to buy him now, especially if you have mid-price midfielders like Anthony Gordon or Diogo Jota, who are really struggling at the moment, maybe in terms of minutes in Jota's case, or in the case of Gordon, for actually looking like scoring a goal or assist this season. While Mbeumo is doing that with 4 goals to his name, no assists so far, but 4 big chances created as well as 4 big chances. 34 FPL points is a decent return with some tough fixtures, also just passing like Tottenham, Liverpool and Man City away for the Bees. A 7.2 million price tag is still reasonable. He did go up in price the other day, but I still think Mbeumo is by far the best Brentford asset and one of the best midfielders for the next 5 game weeks. Gabriel is an absolute monster from set pieces. That's back-to-back weeks where he scored against Tottenham in the North London derby, scoring the winner, and also against Manchester City in a 2-2 draw. Now he has scored at those stadiums as well as Anfield and Stamford Bridge. He's doing it in every single big stadium, it seems, across the Premier League. Maybe Old Trafford is next on the agenda, but 15.8% ownership is quite reasonable. He's going to only go up to 20% and above, with Arsenal's fixtures turning for the better between Game Week 6 to 8, back-to-back home games against Leicester City and Southampton, followed up by Bournemouth away. Then you have Liverpool, Newcastle and Chelsea in a rough period between Game Weeks 9 to 11, but overall Arsenal's fixtures are really good in the long term, and they have a fantastic run up until April essentially. Now that's 2 goals for the season for Gabriel, with 3 big chances, an XG figure of exactly 1, even 1 big chance created and 2 key passes, with 5 shots in the box. He is so important from these set pieces and such a menace. It's very difficult to defend against it with the delivery of the likes of Rice and Saka, and also so many options like Gabriel who get on the end of it, and Arsenal will score a lot of goals from set pieces once again in this campaign. That's 36 FPL points for Gabriel despite some very tough away games to Aston Villa, Tottenham and Man City. I think Gabriel is the best Arsenal defender, and I'd definitely go for him in Game Week 6. Only 2 players haven't blanked this season up until this point. One of them is Saka, and the other is a certain Erling Haaland. Saka has 5 assists to his name, and he becomes the first Arsenal player to register an assist in his first 5 Premier League matches since Thierry Henry. He's an esteemed company, he's one of the best wingers in world football, and he's got 35 FPL points. Over the next 3 game weeks, I still think Saka will deliver, but the absence of Martin Odegaard is still a big one for Saka. They combine so well, and I think Arsenal need to adapt to find that creativity in the midfield to get the best out of Saka and those attackers. Then in those tougher games, especially against Liverpool, Newcastle and Chelsea, Saka has a good record against these clubs and he can deliver once again. His price is 10 million. Don't be surprised if it goes up to 10.1 million before the Game Week 6 deadline, and his ownership will probably get close to 40% by that stage. I sold him in Game Week 4 to Salah. It hasn't paid off whatsoever, but on the wildcard in Game Week 6, or if you're making a free transfer, I'd highly recommend buying Saka. Luis Diaz is on fire this season with 4 double-digit hauls. He even scored for Colombia in a 1-1 draw against Peru, and his price has gone up to 7.9 million, and his ownership is approaching 30% very soon, despite Liverpool's fixtures turning for the worst around Game Week 7 or 8. Now he's got 5 goals for the season and 1 assist, with 7 big chances and 51 FPL points. He's the second highest scoring player in the game, only behind Erling Haaland, with 11 shots inside the box, an XG figure of 2.71, 2 big chance created, and 8 key passes. I think Arne Slot's system is getting the best out of Luis Diaz, who is producing Mane-level numbers and also Mane-level performances. I'd highly recommend Luis Diaz. He's certainly better than Diogo Jota. I wouldn't mind that sort of swap in Game Week 6 or 7. And to cover Mohamed Salah, I'm not saying this will be the solution in the long term, but I think in certain game weeks, Luis Diaz can outscore the Egyptian, as has been proven so far this season. Speaking of which, Mohamed Salah is a very easy hold against Wolves away, who are bottom of the Premier League table, technically joint bottom with Everton, and I could see Salah hauling against them, Crystal Palace and Chelsea, even against Arsenal in one of the most difficult games for Liverpool on paper. Salah has a good record against the Gunners historically. His ownership is still 46.7% with 3 goals and 4 assists. He has been underwhelming in the last 2 game weeks since I've bought him, but the underlying stats are still incredible. And despite playing poorly against Nottingham Forest, I think he had a good game against Bournemouth and is a bit unlucky not to get on the score sheet. 16 shots inside the box, 49 FPL points, and all the numbers are fantastic. 12 shots on target, an XG figure of 2.29, the expected assist is 1.33, 5 big chances, 4 big chance created, 12 key passes. All the stats are incredible for Salah, and that's always been the case. I'd highly recommend keeping him if possible, but I can understand some people, especially in the wildcard, selling Salah to Saka, for example, and then bolstering the defensive line and other positions. Nicholas Jackson was terrific against West Ham, scoring a brace in the London derby and delivering 16 points overall. The next 2 fixtures look decent on paper, especially Nottingham Forest at home in Game Week 7, but the fixtures turn for the worst in Game Week 8, facing Liverpool away and Newcastle at home. So for those that have Jackson, he's a very easy hold, but I wouldn't be looking to buy in on him now. The only Chelsea player I'd like to buy for the long term would be Cole Palmer, but Jackson is the second best Blues asset at this moment in time. His ownership is 10% and it's still rising with 4 goals and 2 assists for the season. His XG is 3.18, 35 FPL points for the campaign with 12 shots inside the box and 6 big chances. He's a good player. His link-up has always been very decent and he makes some great runs. That's something that I've always liked about him. He's got pace and strength. Sometimes his finishing can be lackluster, but for me, you've got Ollie Watkins for a little bit more in terms of price tag, and there are so many budget forwards who are performing right now, such as Danny Welbeck. I think Joao Pedro is still decent, but Brighton's fixtures do turn for the worse. Then you've got Chris Wood, Calvert-Lewin, Jamie Vardy, not to mention Jean-Philippe Mateta at a similar price. So I think Jackson is a hold, but I wouldn't buy him with the fixtures turning very soon for Chelsea. Rico Lewis didn't play a single minute against Arsenal, and back in Game Week 4, he was subbed off for half-time against Brentford, but Man City's fixtures are incredible for Game Week 7 onwards, and I could see them winning every single match coming up, including Newcastle away. His price is 4.7 million, and his ownership is still 10.9%, with 1 assist, 2 big chances, and 15 FPL points for the season. The other underlying stats aren't particularly great, but Rico Lewis has so much potential. He's incredible on the ball and can play this inverted role as a holding midfielder or as a right back, and sometimes even being deployed on the left. Now, when he's in the team, that will affect Gvardiol's attacking potential, and we've seen that so far this season. But I think he's a hold for those that own Rico Lewis, and I wouldn't be looking to buy him unless you want to go for a lot of squad depth on your wild card or using free transfers. I've discussed holding Diogo Jota in recent Transcripts podcasts, but this time I'm going to recommend selling him, but it's a matter of timing, because if he plays against Wolves, I could see Jota scoring against his former club, but that isn't a guarantee, and perhaps you have to wait until the midweek games happen in the Carabao Cup for Liverpool and see if Jota starts that particular match. If he does, you'd probably not fancy him to get that start against Wolves. Now, coming off the bench, he can still make a massive impact and score a goal in limited minutes. He'd done that several times last season. But ultimately, it's just when you want to sell him. It's either Game Week 6, 7 or 8. It's completely up to you. Ideally, it would be after the Wolves fixture, but if he doesn't get the minutes there, you'd probably regret not selling him to a Jarrod Bowen, who I still like a lot in the long term, not to mention Brian Mbeumo, who's a top recommendation from me, and I'd highly recommend doing Jota or Anthony Gordon, who's also a sell in the recent Transcripts podcast. I think moving one of those players to Mbeumo is one of the best transfers you can make in the next couple of weeks. Robinson has been a decent budget defender up until this point, and he has gone up to 4.7 million in the last couple of weeks, and his ownership is 17.2%. Now, Fulham's fixtures do turn for the worse around Game Week 7, but it's still not terrible, and you could keep Robinson and rotate him with other budget defenders like Mazraoui or Lisandro Martinez. You've also got other options I'll cover in the Best Wildcard podcast, and future videos. He has 1 assist for the campaign with 2 big chance created and 17 FPL points, but I think selling Robinson for a Mesraoui, for example, could be a good transfer in the long term, and Fulham haven't been keeping the clean sheets despite having good underlying stats defensively. In terms of expected goals conceded, Fulham are 6th and above the likes of Arsenal, who to be fair have had some circumstances in recent games, but I think Fulham have been a bit unlucky not to keep a clean sheet up until this point, but it is concerning that they're not getting them, and with the fixtures turning for the worse very soon, it's difficult to see when these clean sheets will come. Maybe against Nottingham Forest away in Game Week 6, or possibly Everton away in Game Week 9, but facing Man City and Aston Villa in the next 4, you're really relying on Robinson to get an attack and return to salvage any FPL points. We're now onto the skip section, and Harvey Barnes has been one of Newcastle's shining lights in this campaign. They suffered their first defeat of the season against Fulham, but it has been slightly overdue because their performances haven't been great up until this point. Harvey Barnes has 3 goals and 1 assist with 10 shots overall and 33 FPL points, even 6 key passes and limited minutes overall. He only played 90 minutes in Game Week 5, and before that it was 45 minutes here and there, maybe a 20-minute cameo and around 60 minutes. So I think the minutes overall are inconsistent, and Newcastle have some tough games coming up. I know Everton and Brighton are pretty favourable based on recent games in Everton's case, and Brighton is marked green on the fixture difficulty rating, but I would skip Harvey Barnes for now and add him to the watch list. He is someone to buy in the future if he continues to start week in, week out, and he's a better FPL option than Anthony Gordon in this new campaign. The 11th and final player covered today is Konate, who has gone up to 5.1 million recently. His ownership is also 6.8%, and it's only rising from this point, with 1 assist for the season, which he got against Bournemouth, 1 bonus point, and 24 FPL points for the campaign. The next 3 fixtures are decent, but overall you do see a turn in Liverpool's fortunes from Game Week 7 onwards, based on the fixture difficulty rating on the Fantasy Premier League website and all these different algorithms like DraftHand, and there is a link in the description below. But I could see Liverpool keeping 2 or 3 clean sheets in the next 5 game weeks. Arsenal away looks very tough, to be fair, but Liverpool are one of the best defences and teams in the Premier League, and that should be a very good clash in Game Week 9, and it's going to be a very tight prospect between Liverpool and Arsenal in particular. But with Konate, the reason why I'm talking about skipping him is because the fixtures are turning fairly soon against Liverpool. You've also got Quansah, who has so much potential, and he'll get starts later in the campaign. And the biggest reason of them all is that Konate has a lot of injury problems and fitness issues during his time at Liverpool, and I think he will be managed to also navigate these Champions League and Carabao Cup games coming up for Liverpool. So I think Konate is worth skipping, and it's worth investing even more money in a Virgil van Dijk, possibly Robertson, and the best of them all would be Trent Alexander-Arnold. And there we have it, 11 players to buy, hold, sell and skip. So the transfer tips for Game Week 6 is completely covered. You can see the most transferred out on screen, and towards the beginning I showed the most transferred in. At the moment, Jota, Isak and Joao Pedro are by far the most transferred out, and with good reason. Isak has gone down in price to 8.3 million overnight, and the same goes for Jota to 7.5 million. Thank you very much for watching this video and listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Our aim is to get this to over 200 likes on YouTube and to keep on pushing towards 35 subscribers and beyond. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the other links in the description below for my Patreon and the championships for early access to my videos, amongst many other perks, the Discord server, FPL League, DraftHound, as well as Spotify. Leave a 5-star review on my podcast. It goes a long way to support my channel. I wish you all the best of luck for Game Week 6 and the rest of the season, and I'll see you next time.